Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever episode of Red Alert. Today, we will be talking about what this show is all about. What's the point of having another political show? Already have newsflash, right? Well, there is so many things we don't get to cover in the everyday cycle of news that just goes around so fast. No one can really keep track of it. A lot of things get messed up. And especially in today's day and age, there's a lot of really messed up things that are going on. And what this show will do will take a step back, say, wait a moment, you can't get away with that. That's not right. We're going to call you out on it. So yeah, it's not going to be a long show, but it will be quick, precise, and to the point about the problems facing our country today. So without further ado, let's start Red Alert. Hello everyone, welcome to Red Alert. My name is Spenser Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are a new podcast, so if you like what we have to say today, please consider subscribing, and if you haven't already, please check out some more of the podcasts, including Newsflash, Global 2, Season 2, and Spotlight. So yeah, that's all of what we have to offer. We're going to have a great show. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, obviously we have a lot of stuff to get into, so let's get right into it. Voting. It is one of the most important things that makes America, America. We've always had free, fair, and open elections since our founding way back in the late 1700s. It's been something that many of us have held up and very close to our chest. It's something that we're proud of, right? And it should be something that we're proud of. But is it always as free and fair as we may feel? Well, in this case, and many others across the country, Republicans are finding a way to make sure the people who don't support them just don't vote. Manipulating the voter base, manipulating the electorate. So, one man, one vote looks more and more like a joke each and every day. While I could spend an hour going back through all the times Republicans have tried to manipulate the electorate through gerrymandering, voter suppression laws, and, well, those are just two main ones, but there are many more ways, many more instances, many more times people have done this. Yeah, again, as I said, it would take a really long time. But that's not what we're going to be doing here today. We're going to talk about something that was very much recently in the news, and that was Brian Kemp. He is the Secretary of State for Georgia. And while you may think Secretary of States, their big responsibilities are to go overseas, right? When you think of Rex Tillerson, Mike Pompeo, or past two Secretary of States, you got people like John Kerry. You always saw them meeting overseas with foreign diplomats. Well, that is the National Secretary of State for the United States, but one of the main things that statewide Secretary of States do is the elections. They set up the electoral systems, to take control of the voter rolls, and pretty much everything to do with the election, the Secretary of State has complete control of. And believe it or not, these are partisan positions that Republicans and Democrats get elected to, not appointments made by in a nonpartisan nature, which, now that I take a step back and look at it, seems pretty amazing. Another instance of this kind of weird system that we call America, you can have a situation where a Republican or a Democrat, but for the past two times it's been Republican, Secretary of State, running for statewide office like governor, like Chris Kobach of Kansas, and Brian Kemp of Georgia, who our story's going to be about, and they are going to be able to oversee their own elections to that position. It seems crazy, but that's just the way America works. So yeah, back to Brian Kemp, now that we know more about the Secretary of State and they oversee elections and all that stuff. So, Brian Kemp in Georgia, they have a little bit of an ethical conundrum. So he's running for governor, Brian Kemp, but he will not recuse himself, shocking, from election oversight. A move akin to pretty much serving as the judge in his own case, which makes a lot of sense there because you can see, I mean, he is pretty much the judge, jury, and executioner because he decided election votes. I mean, for example, Chris Kobach was in a pretty close Republican primary, with the incumbent, I believe, for governor. And he won at a very, very close margin due to some kind of a glitch in the system, and all of a sudden he was on top. And you didn't really hear that much about it, did you? So, you kind of see how there is some ethical problems that can be created, right? So the Associated Press last week really made those ethical problems come to light, let's just say. So he said that they reported last week that 53,000 voter registration applications were put on hold by his office. Almost 70% are from black applicants who, statistically speaking, no surprise there, would be likely backers of his opponent, Stacey Abrams. So yeah, pretty much all the people who are going to support Stacey Abrams, or a far majority of them, they were among the ones purged from these voter rolls. And that's obviously a conflict of interest, but let's talk about here the way they did it. It was such a sneaky and deceitful way, because you really, if your name is purged from the voter rolls, there's no way for you to know until you show up, and then you obviously have to get to work. You can't spend all this time just sticking around waiting for everyone to sweat out your voter rolls, but instead, you just got to get going, right? And if you so much as just barely even leave a hyphen out of your name, so you sign your name, you apply for voting, and say your name is John Wilkes Smith, right? And then your name has a hyphen between the Wilkes and Smith on your official state application, but when you apply to vote, you don't put the application. You think, that's not a big deal, right? No. It is a big deal. You'll be purged from the voter rolls and automatically assumed as someone who's a fake, a fraud, and just not going to be allowed to vote. And what I have to guess here is they tried a little bit of kind of a manipulation, specifically with these black people. Like these people from areas that were not allowed to, or that would support Brian Kemp's opponent, Stacey Abrams. So that seems to be what they did here, and that's like a little bit problematic, a little bit of a conflict of interest, in to see that has already risen, even though this whole election has not even happened yet, which is incredible. So we still have the election to oversee if you're Brian Kemp. Imagine how much more shady stuff you could pull off in that certain period of time. It just chills the mind to think about what kind of trickiness you could get up to in a situation like that. The real question now is, how did Brian Kemp respond to those conflicts of interest? Well, his campaign spokesperson, goes by the name of Ryan Mahoney, he told the AP, Kemp is fighting to protect the integrity of our elections and ensure that only legal citizens are able to cast a ballot. But here's the thing. As the Intelligencer, New York Magazine, explains, Kemp's crusade for our elections is a farce. Non-citizen voting is almost non-existent. Of the 23.5 million votes cast on 42 jurisdictions in 2016, including 8 of 10 with the highest concentration of non-citizens nationally, only 30 out of, again, 23.5 million votes were flagged for fraud investigation. That's 0.0001%, according to the Brennan Center for Justice. So, meanwhile, Kemp's office has had now tens of thousands of applications on hold, often for quibbing technical inconsistencies, as you see with us, as I explained before, like slight mismatches with the information on file with the state's Department of Driver Services. For example, your driver's license, if it doesn't explain that you have a hyphen in your name, as I mentioned before, it's all about this thing called the exact match policy. It has to be an exact match, your voter application form, with your driver's license. So, and other state official documents like that. So it's really definitely tough. An earlier version of this law, though, which was used to reject applicants outright for such mismatches, was scrapped in 2017. The state settled a lawsuit alleging the measure was racist. Now, instead of just kicking them off the ballot right away, which is really what they wanted to do, you're now able to get back on if you're lucky. Yeah, so good thing we found out about this before November 6th, almost a month before, so people just can try, if their lives are busy enough already, to try and get registered to vote this corrupt man out of office. So, yeah. Election integrity, though, in Kemp's estimation, seems to mean control elections by him. It wasn't always this easy, though, to thwart large swaths of Georgia's electorate, because the Voting Rights Act, passed in 1965, required federal pre-clearance before several states, including Georgia and 6 others in the South with histories of racial disenfranchisement, changed their voting laws. The Supreme Court famously gutted the provision in 2013 by the supposed moderate, and this is important here, the supposed moderate by the name of John Roberts. He was the man who got rid of this for us. He was the person who got the Voting Rights Act signed in 1965 because under the shallow argument that, oh yeah, the Jew people never try anything like this. We now understand. Racism in this country is just gone. It's non-existent. It's not going to work anymore. Like, there will be no issues with this whatsoever, which is very funny that he would think that. So, fueled by Republican efforts at the state level, though, voter ID laws that had previously faced legal challenges were now permitted to take hold. So, that was the thing. What made the argument at the time all the more ridiculous by John Roberts and by the opposing or the supporting side of this law in the Supreme Court when they gutted this Voting Rights Act in 2013, it really opened the floodgates really for a wave of special suppressive legislation. The racist impact to missing oversight, modernize the Jim Crow era disenfranchisement that the original Voting Rights Act was supposed to stop. Lyndon B. Johnson signed that into law in 1965, and this current Supreme Court decided now to dismantle it. So pretty much the Republicans went hog wild. Voting rights blocker, voter suppression, everywhere you can possibly look. Voter ID laws that had previously faced legal challenges were now again permitted to take hold. Aggressive voter roll purges rendered millions ineligible to cast ballots. And according to the Brennan Center, states that formerly required plea clearance were, wait for it, among the most zealous in pursuing these measures. The authors estimated that 2 million votes or voters would have been rendered ineligible between 2012 and 2016 had these states purged them at the same lower rate as states who did not previously require federal sanctions. So it was pretty much all out in these states. Georgia was no exception, seemingly operating with the premise that voting really should be hard. And by the way, which was funny for all these people who are like, America is a conservative country. It's just Judeo-Christian values that everyone in America still believes today, right? And apparently, they want to make voting rights as hard as humanly possible. And why? Because they know it, and we know it too. The people are not with them on anything. So, like, if voting should be easy, if you think all the country agrees with you. Like, that's what I always hear from Republicans. America agrees with us, right? So, why not make it easier to voice their agreement with you? Like, why not let them shout it from the rooftops, vote at their coffee table, on the internet, pull up their iPad, go on a secure website, say, I support so-and-so, I support so-and-so. Like, actually have the time to sit in your house, do research before you make a choice to vote. That's what you should do if you're conservative who thinks everyone in America agrees with me. Well, here's the thing. They don't, and those people know it. So this is going to be one of the things you're going to have to watch out for as this election season heats up. If you live in a state, especially one that's controlled by Republicans, be very careful to watch your voter rolls. Are you registered? Double check, triple check, quadruple check, because especially these Republican people, they are going to go all out because they know the Democrats, they have the momentum this time, and they are definitely not willing to take any chances on this. So yeah, that's going to be definitely something you should completely watch out for, and one of the reasons why our democracy is on red alert. This has been Red Alert. I'm Spencer Walsh for the Spencer Walsh Radio Network.